Well, my crack team has come up with a Clement prophecy. And it's just fascinating. And a turning point is mentioned in it. And so I'm going to go there in a minute. I was flying home. I could not make it to the memorial service. A lot of my friends were there. I tried to get there. I was out of the country. And I was flying in, and I caught the service on the air. And I was just so moved by watching it. I sensed the presence of God in this whole experience. But you know what I was thinking is, traveling as I get older, the nightmare scenario is you're out of the country, and that's where something happens. Let's say, for instance, you wake up in the middle of the night, and you suddenly have a weird thing, right? You can have fevers or chills, or you got a strep throat, pneumonia, urinary tract infection, whatever, and you got to get to an urgent care, and I don't want to even do that in a foreign country. But here's a breakthrough. Doctors, they're going to prescribe this or that and tell you what to do. There's actually a kit you can travel with, a wellness kit, an emergency kit, and literally it's like having your own little doctor with you on a variety of illnesses. Now, Mercedes, I was telling her about it, and you actually do something like that?
Yeah, I have all of these products. So if you want to go check it out, it's lancewallnau.com/medical. But I know he's got a list there, and I'll show you right here. Like, Matt, zoom in on the, it's a little kit, and it has everything like amoxicillin, azithromycin, doxycycline, benzodiazepine, ivermectin. Hey, I can't say half of these. But here's the great thing. Like, I had an eye infection, and I was talking with ChatGPT. I'm like, Chat, I think my eye's infected. And I was like, it's really hurting. And he goes, yeah, it sounds like you've got an eye infection. You probably need to take some doxycycline. And I thought, wait, I have doxycycline in my medical emergency kit. So I took it, and I went to the doctor the next day just to double check. And he's like, yeah, you need doxycycline. And I was like, well, I'm already started taking it. So go check it out. Get your own. It's lancewallnau.com/medical. And please save money. Put code LANCE in. If you put LANCE in, it saves you 10%. That's $30. All right? Go check it out.
Now, we're not doctors. We're not giving medical advice. But the doctor gave all the notes right here. It's part of the kit. All right. Take action. Don't travel without this. This is with me and Annabelle from now on. And let's go hear what the prophet Clement has to say about history as it's unfolding now. I want to talk to you right now about the service that took place with Charlie Kirk. Charlie, they'd opened with a very interesting revelation. I want you to hear this now. The revelation was the young man who was working as Charlie's, alongside his I guess, chief of staff. I heard it was Rob McCoy's son. I didn't know it was his son.
Mikey McCoy.
Mikey McCoy. And he said, Charlie would always talk about how, as we would talk, and we didn't really realize the extent to which, when Mario Bramnick and I were saying, we've got to figure out a way to turn a Trump rally into a revival, and which is virtually impossible. I was hoping maybe with Paula White involved, or, with Jensen Franklin. I mean, I'm sure the opportunity is yet there, but we didn't see it. But I found out Charlie was saying the same thing. He was saying, is there a way we could get the Holy Spirit to show up at a Trump rally? Wouldn't that be great? Because Donald Trump is, as you know, this would drive some people crazy. He's anointed by God and called by God through answer to the prayer of God's people, according to Isaiah 45. He's a modern-day Cyrus for the sake of nations. And so when I heard that, I thought, I wonder if my friend Clement, I used to tease, well, I didn't tease him. You could never tease him, actually. We go to dinner, and I'd say, you, my friend, shall be remembered as a modern-day Nostradamus. When you're gone, they will be plucking out little quotes of prophecies like they do with Nostradamus. And whatever world event happens, they're going to thread it back to something you said. And I'll be darned if it isn't true. Like right now, we've got Erica. People reminding me, what do you think about the prophecy Kim had about the woman with the big, beautiful eyes? And how she's going to pour oil upon the nation. It's going to bring healing in the middle of the presidency. I said, oh, my gosh, Erica Kirk. And I always push back on this because, Charlie and I even talked about Clement. Believe it or not, Charlie had someone feeding him questions. I was annoyed, actually. I wanted to talk about what I'm going to talk about, and he was asking me Clement questions because someone on his staff was feeding him lines to ask me about. Anyway, Kim does mention, as he did with the uncanny gift that he had, a turning point in America. I don't ever think it's a coincidence when Kim is prophesying about bitterness and division and political rivalry, and then it coming to a crescendo. You could say the radical left at the point where it shoots and murders the messenger on the right, who they want to vilify and misrepresent, but it was a Christian speaking boldly in the name of Jesus on campuses. Well, that's a moment of bitterness, but it becomes a turning point. Watch this.
I was overwhelmed by a strong presence of hatred and bitterness permeating from the citizens of the United States of America. When I sensed this, I sensed I was literally tasting the bitterness, not that would only come, but that is present. And God was so grieved because this was not just believers, unbelievers, these were believers as well. I could sense this coming from unbelievers and believers. So much so that I sensed God was severely grieved that politics and the economy and the news media has put us in a position where we are completely corrupted in our hearts, and bitterness is coming forth instead of praying prophetically, calling out to God. I sensed corruption after that, and then an exposure of this by a strange happening, a strange turn of events. Now this is what I saw. At this point, now remember we're speaking about a corruption that we don't know about yet, and the strange happening or strange turn of events that will literally be the turning point in American history. Now that's a big thing to say. I'm saying what I've heard, it's not happening. But please repent if your heart is bitter and you have hatred, because it's not going to help you living like that as warriors.
Praying prophetically. If I was with Kim and that prophecy was coming up now, I'd be so interested in hearing what he has to say to add to it. But he's describing government, economy, which is business, and media. You could put academia. And then the word corruption. What we are realizing is that the entire government apparatus is a gigantic money machine, ka-ching, and power machine that, it shouldn't surprise us, that threads through the gates of the authorities over academia and the universities and in the government, and then the funding of organizations, the billionaire class that funds the left-wing organizations, and then the media lies and distortion. And what strikes me as interesting is I was asking the Lord, saying, how can they misrepresent Charlie Kirk? How could they despise him and hate him when he's virtually ubiquitous in media, 100 million views a week? And the Lord says, they're not looking. They're not listening. They're not watching. They think. Now, here's what the Lord showed me. There's a guy on the left in the Democrat Party named, I think his name is David Hogg or something like that. He's roughly Charlie's age. He's absolutely like everything that Carvel will say is dangerous for the Democrats ever getting elected. He's radically hostile to your freedoms, to your ability to defend yourself, protect yourself. He's basically like an anarchist, activist, popular voice, and got himself famous dealing with, shootings in schools and such. But when I see his face on the right, and I see he's saying something, I immediately tune him out. Now, here's the danger. I believe I have an accurate assessment of who he is because I have to immerse myself in the Daily Beast and Rolling Stone, mostly because when they wrote about me, I started subscribing. And how could they say those terrible things about me? I know me, and I'm not like that. But then I started reading what they say, and we listen to the left. So I've listened to David Hogg. Hoggs, isn't it?
It's David Hogg, and he was involved. He was at the Parkland school shooting, so he got put on the map because he was interviewed by the media.
And then he launched his activist career, Democrat Party activist.
Well, it didn't launch a career. It got leveraged into that. He was a victim of that, and now he speaks out against it. So, which
launched his career as a Democrat-funded activist.
I don't know if I'd word it that way, but go for it.
But here's the point. He is a spokesman. I believe he was up for the speakership for the Democrat Party. He attempted to become, check it out while you're doing your AI research, check it out. I believe he was contending to be the spokesman for the Democrat Party, and they kind of voted him politely off to a secondary position. My point is this. They look at Charlie Kirk with the same brand that we have of David Hogg, meaning that they have no sympathy because of a misrepresentation. One time, I got invited onto Harvard to go speak at an event. I had police warning me. There was, protesters there. It was a dangerous situation, they said. But I felt compelled to go because once it became an issue of courage, I felt the issue wasn't going or not going and prudence. The issue was whether or not I was going to let fear dictate whether I went. So there's some other well-known preachers, speakers that canceled because of this. And I said, I can't do it. The students asked me to not cave in. And they were Christians that were holding this little seminar. So when I get there, I meet with some witches that were organizing curses against me. I met with atheists, and I met with a homosexual advocate. All three of them heard me, and it was like a Charlie Kirk moment when they heard me and talked to me afterward and said, I have to say, I don't agree with your politics, but they totally misrepresented you. They told me you advocated for the burning of witches. They told me you wanted to stone homosexuals. They told me you were trying to shove your religion and force everyone to convert. And so I remember the owner of the manager of the Harvard pub was one of the atheists who organized the event. And he said, I feel kind of bad about this because I'm the guy that I'm the dean of the summer school, and I organized it. He said, I'm Jewish. I didn't really know what you were all about, but after I heard you, let me ask you a question. Would you be my guest at the Harvard pub? I said, sure, we can bring all these guys. And we all went down to the Harvard pub. Now, my point is this. When I came back, I went up there nervous. I came back with a testimony, and the Lord said, had you not gone into their environment, the stereotype they had of you, which Satan painted, would have been the only image they'd have of who you are. Therefore, you must understand, Christians must go into all the systems, all the world, for the simple reason that the stereotype that Satan has created regarding who you are and what you represent can only be shattered by proximity and exposure to the authentic and the real thing. While I was there, I met the activists who were funded as journalists who planted the fake stories. And I met them in a strange way. I met them because I looked at these two people, and I felt compelled to go up and engage a conversation with them. And they were a little stunned because they realized that they were there to spy out me and write about me, and they had planted the stories, working for one of the Soros-funded media outlets. And I didn't know who they were, and they were realizing that I'm targeting them specifically out of a crowd to approach them, to talk to them. And I invited them to go in the back room with me to get some coffee. I just wanted to explore what the protesters and what the students, I didn't know who they were, students, protesters, whatever. And I sat back in the back and talked to them. Now, they were not converted. The audience was. In other words, if you have a lot invested, which is the politicians, the David Axelrods, the Obamas, I really do not look for them to ever change. And I'm sorry, I'm a Christian. There is a Saul to Paul conversion, I get that. But it's going to take getting knocked down off your horse by a divine intervention to make that happen. Our job is to get the campus people, or the people that are hearing the lies, to get exposed to who we really are, to shatter the stereotype, and then to give an articulation of the reason for the hope that is in you. You don't have to enter the debate arena like Charlie, like, here, hit me with 1,000 questions and I'll just be Solomon. You simply have to know how to hold your own concept sufficiently so that you can give a reasonable, or a reason, or a logismos is what the Greek word is that Peter is using in the Greek. Give a logismos for, a logic for the hope that you have, the belief that you have. I think the body of Christ is to be trained to be apologists. Not to apologize, but to defend the proposition that you have. Because the gospel goes into every area of life and government. There is a biblical worldview that applies to all of life, not just to getting into heaven when you die. We'll be right back. We're entering a period of time that has increased hostility against people of faith. It's a time when Christians are going to be tested on a moral, physical, psychological, and even a financial basis. I'm here to remind you that God is the one who has blessed you thus far, and He will take care of you in the future. You have a divine responsibility, however, to see trouble and prepare yourself. For example, with record inflation eating away at the value of the U.S. dollar, the savings in your retirement account is in danger of slipping away. I recommend diversifying your 401k or IRA out of paper assets and into physical gold. And the best way to do that is with a gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. Now that includes no penalties, there's no taxes when you transfer current retirement funds into Birch Gold. To see how it works, I want you to go to lancewallnau.com/Birch and get your free info kit, and you'll be glad that you did. Welcome back to the Lance Wallnau Show, the one place you can go where you're going to get an honest, I would say, an earnest prophetic perspective on the current trending news and events. Mercedes Sparks is right over here.
Hi, Lance.
To my side. Hi, Mercedes. Now, I'm only going to talk for a moment about Jimmy Kimmel, the Kimmel kerfuffle. So, big deal. Jimmy Kimmel, starts using his FCC licensed platform to spread disinformation to the audience that, remember what I said in the earlier segment, we're dealing with mass stereotype psychoses. They have draped one half of the United States in the language of Nazi, fascists, Christian nationalists, and they conjure up all kinds of images of danger. Meanwhile, every 3 days, there's another deranged leftist killing somebody in the United States. Did you know that? So far, I looked at the record for how things have been going. Because before Charlie was killed, you had the throat cut of that poor Ukrainian girl cowering under the menace of a demonized man who has 14 convictions and is still running loose with a knife. And it was race rage that he did it. He wanted to get a white woman. That's what he said. And the point is that these demons want race wars. These demons want us to divide at the most anatomical level, the lowest possible level, to balkanize the United States into warring factions, which is why the unity of the United States, or a one nation under God, is indispensable to the ordering of our public life in such a way that we could exist as a community that has law and peace. Well, the reaction to Jimmy Kimmel getting suspended was uniquely hypocritical in that the President of the United States was deplatformed from Facebook and from Twitter, silenced and exiled to Mar-a-Lago, where the guns came out to raid and put false evidence out there with the hopes of putting him in prison. That's how dangerous and corrupt the country was. Back to Kim's prophecy, the corruption that will be exposed, which still hasn't adequately been exposed because of the fog of so much, the blizzard of corruption. But Kimmel gets suspended because he lied. Here's the point. He said it was a right-wing MAGA extremist that killed Charlie Kirk, and then good riddance, and mocking him, Charlie Kirk, for virtually deserving it. In other words, the David Hogg effect, putting him into a box of stereotype that his audience wouldn't know how to differentiate, and then lying about what happened. Well, that got a response because these people live in their own little bubble. They have a coastal elite bubble, and it's easy to do. If all you do is hang out with, it's like that one lady said after, I think it was Nixon got elected, in a landslide. She said at NBC, she said, I don't know how he got elected. Nobody I know voted for him. And that was the revelation I got when I heard that. So if you're in the left-wing bubble, as some of my family members are, the academics especially, they're living in a kind of like an unusual world which has its own bubble. They're reading the New York Times, they're looking at the Wall Street Journal, they're listening to CNN and MSNBC, and so on Face the Nation on Sunday morning, if they watch that at all. But what's going on is they're only getting the propaganda. They're listening to the communist news network telling them America is like the great Satan and China is, the answer to your problems. So that's all they're hearing. Jimmy Kimmel comes out of that same bubble every night. He lives in that elite bubble, along with Stephen Colbert. You know who doesn't live in that bubble in entertainment? Bill Maher. Do you know why? Because his show forces a dialogue with opposing views. These guys have no opposing views in their world. So Kimmel comes out with the self-righteous, smug, extension of the news as he heard it. It's a right-wing extremist killed, this nut job, Charlie Kirk. Well, now you could see if you have Sinclair and these various distributors, the way that these ABC is an affiliate stations and nation, and then Disney owns that. And so you got a pyramid of business complexity, which middle America, Peoria, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the markets that are covered, Tulsa, these guys know, hey, man, that started to light up our switchboard. We're trying to sell advertising. We're not trying to endorse Kimmel. So the executive said, find out from Jimmy, is this it? And he's got, no. He's got freedom of speech. He's a self-important comedian who thinks his platform is an endorsement of his worldview. So he's ready to go hammer them with another one. He's going to, wait till you hear the next monologue. He's telling his friends, yuck, yuck, yuck. You think I'm backing down? I'm not backing down. Well, the executives got together and said, Disney called. And they said, there's no way we can afford. Because two of their major distributors said, we're not going to air it. We're going to put something else on. Maybe we'll do the funeral. Maybe that'll be it. We'll cover a memorial. We'll cover the Kirk funeral. And so, I think Disney, this goes down as a great decision by the Disney CEO, who isn't philosophically a MAGA guy at all, the Democrat, who's going to go, you know what? Not good business. Not good business. And so now here's where the part where they're all hot, because the FCC director, who is on our side, the kind that doesn't take you like a former president off of Facebook or off of Twitter. He's saying that license is a government-given license, and there's certain rules. And one of the rules is you can say whatever you want. You got freedom of speech. You cannot be using your platform to deliberately stir up something or misrepresent the facts. You can't use it. It's a license that the taxpayers are paying for it, so it's an interesting aspect. Now that wasn't. That's where they're all going. Everybody's freaking out. Even our side is freaking out. Oh, we got to be careful about that. They don't care about silencing you. When I got knocked off of YouTube and lost 200,000 subscribers, thank God my business model wasn't based on that. I would be broke. I would have learned my lesson. Don't you dare say what the censors don't want. But you know what? That's how they ran it. That's how they ran it when you talked about Dominion software or COVID. Remember those words? My staff would go bleep all that out of my mouth. I knew what they were doing. I'd do my show and you'd end up 25 minutes, have an 18-minute broadcast. They would protect me from myself because I was under censorship. So don't act like this hasn't happened. Oh, the Democrats will start to do it. No, the Democrats do it. Your challenge is keep them from power. Because what they do is they label you in a way that endangers. It's not their side getting targeted. It's us getting targeted. Because this Nazi fascist label they put on us makes us a public enemy, and some heroic Butler PA, 22-year-old, with half a brain, listening to the left, who's playing games all the time, is ready to go load a gun and be a hero with their peer group by taking you out. This is the Mangione. This is the nut job that shot the CEO of the insurance company. And I even hear in my own circle, well, the insurance companies are pretty bad. Oh, great. So now we start killing media personalities like Charlie and CEOs who run businesses because public killings is our way of virtue signaling. Well, that's where we're at. That's why there has to be a reset on this whole conversation. You know who got that? Johnny Carson got it. There's a reason why they all wanted to get that Tonight Show job, but Johnny still is the king. And not that he wasn't tempted, that Satan doesn't come and offer you, oh, if you would only do this or only do that. Your ego, you have your own opinions too, don't you? Watch Charlie's response with Mike Wallace. Trump would say, the great Mike Wallace. Watch this interview, this brief interview, because you get a glimpse, even the expression on his face, about, hey, that's a dangerous slope. The entertainer has to be careful what he does.
You get sensitive about the fact that people say he'll never take a serious controversy.
Well, I have an answer to that. I said, now, tell me the last time that Jack Benny, Red Skelton, any comedian, used his show to do serious issues. that's not what I'm there for. Can't they see that?
But you're not.
Why do they think that just because you have a Tonight Show that you must deal in serious issues? That's a danger. It's a real danger. Once you start that, you start to get that self-important feeling that what you say has great import. And you know, strangely enough, you could use that show as a forum. You could sway people, and I don't think you should as an entertainer.
I don't think you should as an entertainer. Well, Mercedes, what are your thoughts on this? You're sitting over there listening to me rant away.
No, I think you bring up a good point. I mean, I can't tell you how many times when we go out places, we go on the Courage Tour or we're written about with false accusations. And we talk about this, like, I'm always carrying. Everyone in my house knows where everything is and where to find things, but we live in a really scary time.
Wait. That's code. What do you mean they know where everything is? What are you talking about? They know where the garbage disposal is?
Yeah.
Or they know?
That's what that means. They know where the garbage disposal is. But what I'm saying, though, is, it's a really interesting time and place where after Charlie's assassination, my daughter turns to me and goes, see, this is why I don't like when you go out and you speak. This is why I worry about you and Lance. And, my response to her is, I think what all of our responses, which is I said, sweetheart, I'd rather lose my life telling the truth than not tell the truth. And that's just the line of work that I'm in and Lance is in. And so it's just really, it's scary when people are being radicalized through, like you're saying, left-wing media and social media posts and TikToks, and they are in this echo chamber of the same opinion and honestly dehumanized in many ways. That's one of the bigger takeaways, is that the left removes the human element of, well, we must not have anything in common. Well, we all have families. We have mothers and fathers, we have sisters and brothers. So we all go to work. I mean, there's an element of we actually have more in common than we think we do. And so, but that's something that doesn't factor into this very unhealthy mindset that I think, sometimes we have it on our side, but predominantly it's more so on the left. And I think that's why so many moderates, like a moderate Democrat, is now on the conservative side to say, I'm not crazy. It's like I want fiscal conservatism and I might not agree on the social issues, but man, I don't agree with killing someone in cold blood. And it's just getting more and more radicalized. So anyways, this is a long answer to your even longer rant, but those are my thoughts.
Well, this may surprise you, but I actually have in the LGBTQ community, I have some friends, and one of them is interesting. She's a lesbian, you could say, who came into the MAGA movement because she loved RFK and was following him. And then when he endorsed Trump, she would talk to me about it. She wanted to figure out how in the world will I ever like Trump? And she started listening to Charlie Kirk because she's younger. And she said, I know he doesn't endorse my lifestyle, but I cried and cried when Charlie died, when I heard that, because I felt like I lost a friend and I wanted to talk to you about it. You see, now that's Jesus. That means that the individual and their integrity and their value is always held in a sacred space by a true Christian. Their ideas are separated from them. The ideas can be bad, but the person themselves is made in the image of God. Martin Buber, the German theologian, before the Nazis started to take guys like him, he was Jewish, and put them in camps. They first dehumanized them. They did documentaries showing the Jews as like deranged people, and then they had rats in a maze. So you'd associate psychologically an it. They are not human. They are vermin. And that's how you could justify killing an animal. See? You can kill the fascists because they're not human. They're a vermin. And that's the dangerous slope that I believe you want to carve this thing down the middle. The Christian worldview says, I am related to you as made in the image of God. I, thou. The secularist who speaks on the other side, that attacks us, that says that Charlie's meeting was a Nazi rally. I watched one nut job wrote that. They want to make you an it, because an it you can kill as a public service, but a thou you must hold sacred. Christians are separated from the world in that they have an I-thou relationship even with their enemies. Oh, my, I got so much more to talk about. The real spicy stuff. Donald Trump saying that he hates his opponents. You guys know what I'm talking about. I got to go wade in. Erica Trump's moving moment brought to tears when I watched that. My gosh, is there a revival happening? I can't go there now because we're out of time. My producer tells me, land the plane. That's what they in the back room. They're telling me to land the plane. So I'm not done yet. You got to watch tomorrow, and don't miss it. See you tomorrow.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends, because the more knowledge you have, the better equipped you are to navigate the world